how can we really, flip this concept of waterfall into an agile? How can we move from a waterfall context to an agile context? It's very important for you. I think most of the people would ask this question because, well, we know waterfall, how it works, but then we also know agile, but then how to make this move, this journey from a waterfall context, because not all teams in an organization, in your company, would be agile. So some of them would be working in waterfall mode. So in such a case, how could we really kind of flip this kind of mode into, how can we make sure that we do the transition from the waterfall to the agile mode? So that's where we really are talking about the steps in the form of the requirements, the design. This again is a waterfall. So let's have a look at the waterfall steps. You know that this is typical waterfall. You've got this requirements coming in, from there the design, from their development, then the testing, and finally you are deploying and maintaining that. So this is your typical waterfall. If you want to now move from this into the agile mode, you need to put a button, you need to have a switch, and that switch is basically the iteration. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4 in a senior way. You need to have in a serial way. You can't just have a sequential flow. You need to have that kind of a loop where you can go back to something if it is not working. If there's a change, you can go back. And that's where we're talking about the kind of iteration. It needs to be iterative, not sequential. So the first thing with agile is it needs to be iterative. If there's something that needs to be fixed, if the shopping cart is not working as it should be, you're trying to add an item to the shopping cart. It took the item, but then it is not actually retaining the state. So when you go to the shopping cart, it is showing item added on the screen. But when you go back to the shopping cart as a function, you click on that and it shows all the items. It is not showing you this item that was recently added. It was showing the old basket. So that's the problem, right? So you acknowledge that there's a problem. You need to fix it. And the only way you can fix it is that you actually go back quickly to the requirement and say what should be it should show a message, a confirmation that the item has been added to your basket or the cart. So that kind of a confirmation is what should be shown, so that gives you, number one, that gives an idea that it is done. Number two, you're actually going to add that item into the database, the temporary storage within your, either on the cache or in the server level. That could be done in different ways. Let's not talk about the technical implementation, but let's not what we call as solutionize it. There could be multiple solutions to that problem, but we can fix the problem. To be able to fix the problem, we need to identify the problem. We need to prioritize that, and then we need to work on that. So if the team is already working on, for example, the payment processing, and then that's the kind of a plan, you need to actually ask them to hold on. Guys, let's hold the work. The more important thing for us, more urgent thing for us is to actually fix this defect. So let's work on this, pause your work on that, so that we can refocus our energies on this, fix this defect, and then come back to the payment processing later. If we want to do that, we need to have this kind of flexibility in the system, right, in the process. And that's why we need to have this iterative approach. We should be able to go back to the requirements, change that quickly, and then be able to immediately look at the design, effect the changes in the design. The design might be a high-level design, the architecture, or the low-level design. We might be using some component there. So that third-party component of the control that we're using, we should be able to change it. If it's not helping us, we should be able to immediately change that, and then being able to bring it to the core. And from there on, we should be able to quickly code it, test it, and then deploy it. All should be done quickly and efficiently, and then we need to move on to the previous important task of the payment processing, right? So it's all about iteration. We should be able to go back to something and then be able to make the change and then deliver. If it is changed again, accept it, change it. There's no such thing as a constant thing. Change is only constant in the world, right? So that keeps changing. We can't just sit back and say, this is now done, dusted, finished, frozen. No, there's no such thing as a frozen, unlike in Waterfall. We had the concept of freezing of requirements in Waterfall. We had the concept of sign off in Waterfall, not in Agile. So it's important that you actually acknowledge the importance of iteration, the ability to go back and being able to change some of the things. And the other important thing, again, there's a mantra, is incremental. You're not delivering everything in one go. It's not a big bang that we used to deliver in Waterfall. We had a discussion where we were talking about how you deliver stuff after about a year and a half. You're taking a year and a half since the requirement was accepted and signed off by the client to the time they actually get to see the first screen. They're actually seeing this product, what they want to develop, after a year and a half of actually writing and saying, yeah, this is the requirement. So by that time, there could be loads of things that changed. So instead of that, instead of 1.5 years of wait time for the client, why don't you deliver something in phases? Why don't you deliver the first module, first screen in 1 month time? So instead of delivering in 2022, what you're trying to develop something, and then you're trying to deliver the, for example, the catalog page by November, and then you're trying to you get the feedback, you can work on the changes. Again, if there are any changes, you can incorporate the changes with the iteration. Then you again work on the shopping cart functionality, deliver that in April 2021. If there's some changes, you can fix them again in July. And then by September, you deliver the payment processing and the order processing. So by about, what we're talking about, 2021 December, you've got pretty much the whole project done. And you are working in conjunction, in close proximity with the customer, fully engaged into the product development. So you actually are getting the feedback almost on a daily or a weekly basis, so that what you're trying to develop is fitting into what they wanted, what they needed, as and when we're talking about it. It's not something like the analogy that I was talking about, the dark room photograph, that the photographer would actually spend all the time, then deliver something, and then see, hey, this is a fantastic, oh, hold on, this is not what I wanted. This photograph is totally, incorrect. There's a wrong photograph, or there's all blurred. You can't actually get to see that unless you actually wash it in the solution, dry it and all that. So it's actually, and then take it out of the dark room. By the time you bring it out, it's actually a good, 3-4 hours. After 3-4 hours, you actually see the photo and it says, it's all blurred. There's nothing there. So can you go back and shoot? No, because it's already done. The event is already done. The wedding has been done, or the sports event, the match, cricket match, or the football match is already finished. So what's the point of actually looking at that now? It's about a good 1 day later, right? So it should be iterative. It should be incremental for it to be agile. It should be quick and prompt to change.